Left channel, right channel, center.
ViaSat-3 一問一答自己紹介
Yeah, and the tape's
それじゃあ
rolling.
行くよせーのお名前は
Katt Phloxworthy.
呼び方は
Just Cat is fine.
あなたは何系 VTuber?
Nerdy cat girl who features spaceflight.
誕生日は
May 4th.
年齢は
Older than Pneumatic.
性別は
Transgender
身
female.
長は
4'11".
出身は
Sacramento County.
チャームポイントは
Dialogue hair clip.
突然ですがモノマネどうぞ
Yeah, what's up, Dad?
活動場所は
Twitch, Twitter, YouTube.
はじめの挨拶
Thank you for joining me.
終わりの挨拶
Bye.
推しマークは
Not at present.
配信タグは
Catlight feed.
ファンアートは
Cat pics.
ファンネームは
Cat's apprentices.
好きな色は
Iris Indigo.
好きなことは
Vintage computers and
得意
video.
なことは
Technology.
ここで一言愛の告白好
I love you.
きな食べ物は
Ethnic foods.
好きな飲み物は
Craft soda.
好きな漫画は
Pizza 10.
好きなアニメは
Planet.
好きなゲームは
Left 4 Dead 2.
好きな音楽は
Classic rock.
苦手なことは
Human stupidity.
尊敬するのは
Spacefaring people.
叶えた い夢は
ISS crew
最後にみん
interview.
なに一言どう
Thanks
ぞ
so much for your support and a final status check.
Go Atlas.
Go Centaur.
Go Katt Phlox.
You have permission to launch.
3, 2, 1. RD-180 ignition, booster ignition, and liftoff of Atlas V and Centaur. My goodness, won't the scuff ever stop? In any event, hello everybody, and thank you so much for joining me. Hi, Katt Phloxworthy here. First spaceflight stream I've done in a while. Right now we're getting ready to head out to head back out to the I think it's Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, Space Launch Complex 39. Was it 40? I think it was. No, 41. I think it is, where we have an Atlas in the 551 configuration, which is 5 meter fairing with 5 SRBs and 1 RL-10 on the Centaur stage on the pad, fully fueled and ready to go. They have the ViaSat-3 F2 mission getting ready to head into the air. What they are doing is populating a different constellation for an broadband internet feed. Hello, how you doing, Daniel? I hope you're doing all right. Things were a little bit interesting over the last few days to streaming, especially with 24H2 being starting to becoming. It makes me wonder whether I even bothered to update to 24H2, especially now that AI is now starting to creep in there. I've heard of feeping creaturism, but this is beyond ridiculous. And of course, that's a spoonerism for creeping featureism. Well, it's not so much what it's adding; it's what it's taking out. In this case, it's taking the human equation out of there. But then again, it's not like it's all that great to begin with, because Microsoft knows nothing about the whole concept of quality assurance. So, yeah. Anyway, we're about to go ahead and head over to the pad, and I'm going to go ahead and there we go. I'm going to turn that down real quick so I can hear what's going on here, as well as, of course, hearing what's going on. They are about to launch in about 13 minutes. And we have like I said, this is an Atlas booster, Atlas V booster, one of the last few of them before they ultimately go away because of things going on between the U.S. and Russia, especially on the Russia side. Most notably, first of all, the invasion of Crimea, and now since then the full-on invasion of Ukraine. They have stopped. First, they stopped. But then, from what I understand, apparently they've been already looking at doing this anyway. I don't know if they went that far even before the whole Crimean episode, but they were already in the process of getting things going. But also, on top of that, I'm not sure when they actually put this one mandate into effect that basically says no satellites with any kind of national security interest will go up on anything other than an American rocket, or at the very least not a Russian rocket in any event. The last one I think went up, actually ended up being last year. So everything nowadays is going to be either on Vulcan Centaur or Falcon 9. So anyway, we're going to head over to this Cape Canaveral Space Force Station and pick up the coverage over there. Stand by.
Shortly after liftoff, the rocket begins a pitch over to attain the proper.
They do a pitch over so then they can start going downrange as opposed to just straight up. And then they do first of all they do a roll program to put it in the right azimuth, and then they do the pitch over.
Augment the liftoff thrust of the Atlas V, giving it the power to deliver the payload to orbit. With their propellant expired approximately 96 seconds into ascent, the SRBs burn out, followed by jettison. Atlas's guidance system then begins steering towards the precise target in space. The ViaSat-3 F2 satellite is encapsulated inside a 5-meter diameter payload fairing, which provides protection to the satellite during ascent. After crossing the Kármán line, entering space, the payload fairing is jettisoned. With the majority of propellant expended fighting against the force of gravity, the RD-180 engine shuts down and the booster stage separates. The rocket then begins second stage flight, weighing less than 7% of what it did at liftoff. With the first burn complete, the Centaur engine shuts down for a coast phase. ULA's high-performance Centaur then performs 2 additional firings of its RL-10 engine. Together, the 3 burns increase the transfer orbit altitude and reduce the orbital inclination relative to the equator. During the third and final burn, Centaur expends all of its cryogenic propellant, minimizing the time to final orbit for ViaSat-3 F2. Following the final shutdown of its main engine, Centaur releases the ViaSat-3 F2 satellite into geosynchronous transfer orbit, or GTO, to expand and enhance in-flight connectivity for aviation passengers, exceed performance, security, and resiliency for governments, enhance internet experience on board vessels, and help deliver fast, reliable internet to rural communities.
And there's the actual how the nomenclature works for how these vehicles are named.
On your screen right now, you're seeing our flight configuration key for today's launch. We have the AV551. The AV stands for Atlas V. The first 5 is for a payload fairing size, which is a 5-meter payload fairing. The middle 5 is for the number of solid rocket boosters, which is fully loaded today at 5. And lastly, we have a 1 for our singular Centaur engine. Now that we've seen the flight plan and learned about the configuration, viewers watching the launch from Florida and parts of the Southeast may be able to see our Atlas rocket in flight. To get a closer look at the visibility map, check out @ULA Launch on social media.
It's also worth noting that they have smaller fairings, like right around the 4-meter size. But what they usually do is that they only encapsulate the actual payload, whereas in this case it encapsulates not just the payload but also the Centaur stage.
Launch is looking good. The probability of violating launch constraints is less than 5%. The ground winds are 3 to 6 knots. The wind direction is east-northeast. The temperature outside is 70 degrees Fahrenheit, and there are no concerns.
So basically what they do is, like I said, they sometimes have a 4-meter fairing, which only encapsulates, like I said, only the payload. And those will usually jettison after BECO and separation of the Atlas stage and ignition of the Centaur stage. But in this case, we're a 5-meter fairing, which is not only encapsulate the payload, but also encapsulate the Centaur stage as well.
In a few moments, ULA launch conductor Ed Kidda will poll the team for the final go to pick up the countdown. The launch conductor manages the launch team during the countdown, ensuring that all systems are performing nominally and that every member of the team is following their procedure and executing per the planned timeline.
28 engineers are polled to confirm the rocket is ready to proceed. This is a final status check for all Atlas vehicle systems, ground systems, the payload, and the United States Space Force Eastern Range. Let's listen in as he performs the poll.
Here comes the poll. They make sure that everything and everyone is ready. That includes all personnel in there, as well as the vehicle, the payload, and all systems that support the entire vehicle as it gets ready to launch, as well as its ascent. Anyway, like I was saying, the 5-meter fairing encapsulates both the top part of the Centaur as well as the fairing, the payload, and has to be jettisoned before they actually separate Atlas from Centaur. And that will happen just shortly after it breaches the 100-kilometer altitude line, which is known as the Kármán line, which is the which is essentially the internationally recognized boundary to space, which is about 67 miles in altitude. They should be doing that shortly. I think they'll pick up the count at L minus 4 minutes.
This is Atlas Mission Control at L minus 5 minutes and 23 seconds. We are currently not hearing a poll because the team is working an issue. Thankfully, our launch window tonight extends 44 minutes, and we will keep on listening in for updates.
So they may actually have a hold at the T minus 4 minute mark. So in case they run into issues, which requires them to actually hold the launch even further, they will, right now it's L minus, in this case, L minus 4 minutes, 55 seconds. That means at that point is when it's supposed to launch, but chances are they will actually stop that timer and adjust it accordingly to give it what is called the new T0. And that red flame that you're seeing on the left, that's where hydrogen is moved away from the vehicle and burned off away from the stack. While oxygen gets vented overboard, any evaporated oxygen, boiled off oxygen gets vented overboard and let into the atmosphere. Hydrogen, on the other end, like I said, it has to be.
4 minutes here. We are continuing to hold as the
What they
team
have to
works
say.
through this technical issue. We will let you know as we learn more.
And of course, another programming note. This weekend, sometime on Sunday, I will have more information as far as the actual date and time. There will be a Vulcan Centaur launch. New Glenn. Wrong application of the BE4, that's for sure. But yeah, and on top of that, the wrong number of BE4 engines as well. 7 versus 2.
This is Atlas Mission Control at L minus 4 minutes and holding. Earlier in today's broadcast, you may have heard the launch team referring to the range being green. For context, the range, or the Eastern Range, refers to a designated area extending from Florida throughout the southern Atlantic Ocean. The range, operated by the United States Space Force, supports rocket launches from the east coast of the United States. This area is considered and reported to the launch team as green when the flight path is clear of boats or aircraft. In addition to keeping the public safe, the range supports launch providers with communications and telemetry, as well as rocket tracking when in flight and weather forecasting.
And quite frequently, what will happen is when something goes into the like a boat or an airplane, or something happens or any kind of craft goes out into the area where the range downrange from the launch site, that's considered fouling the range. So basically, the idea is in case something goes wrong and they have to destroy the aircraft, bits of it doesn't fall on people, but instead just goes out over open water. So that's the reason why they launch over water. Why Russia and China, and especially China, not just over land, but also quite frequently over populated areas? Yeah. I don't know why. And I've seen pictures of spent stuff with UDMH just spewing out the damn thing. And it's like, yeah, that is nasty stuff. UDMH being unsymmetrical dimethylhydrazine, one of the hydrazine families. We tend to use MMH or monomethylhydrazine. Basically, they're pretty nasty propellants when combined with dinitrogen tetroxide, sometimes called nitrogen tetroxide for ease of speech. Those are basically combining to what is called a hypergolic propellant. Basically, they ignite in contact with each other. And basically, they do not require any kind of ignition mechanism. They just need to open a set of valves in order to actually let those flow. Unplanned hold. Okay, so let's see what. Hopefully, we'll have more information before too long. One that actually uses hypergolics as their primary propellant was the Proton M, and every time you see people raid me, that is a Proton M rocket with its accelerometer sensor. Oh, hang on. Let's see what they have here.
Payload itself is designed and manufactured by ViaSat, while the satellite is manufactured by Boeing. A lot of people get confused sometimes when they hear payload versus satellite and wonder, what the difference is between those two. The payload is the thing that's actually performing an objective in space. So for example, it's what's providing satellite internet. But the satellite is the thing that provides the payload everything it needs to perform its job, like electricity. So we have these large solar arrays that generate more than 25 kilowatts of power with 144 feet worth of wingspan, so giant, massive solar arrays to provide that power for that exceptional downlink speed, upwards of 100 megabytes per second. The body of the
Megabytes? Oh my
spacecraft
goodness.
is 24 feet in length to give you a size for scale. And the mass of that payload is actually 6 metric tons for the satellite. So that's going to be probably one of the heaviest spacecraft Atlas has ever launched to GTO.
So it's just a little more than 6 short tons. So basically, every 1,000, every 1 metric ton is 2,200 pounds. Like I said, just a little bit more than a short ton. I'd have to see how big a long ton is. But yeah, basically,
ViaSat
6.
is a pioneering global technology company.
That looks like an Antonov An-124.
ViaSat helps businesses,
The An-124
governments, and
Ruslan.
communities solve their most demanding connectivity and communication challenges and turn them into strategic advantages. ViaSat is creating one of the world's most advanced multi-orbit.
Yep, that is in fact a
communication networks to power
Ruslan.
high-quality,
The
reliable,
An-124.
secure, affordable, fast connections to positively impact people's lives anywhere they are, on the ground, in the air, or sea, all while building a sustainable future in space.
And that was actually the basis that was used to design the An-225 Mriya, which is
ViaSat-3
Ukrainian for
satellite
dream.
constellation is an important part of ViaSat's global multi-orbit network, designed to add significant capacity that is secure, reliable, and highly flexible. The ViaSat-3 constellation is planned to be 3 Ka-band satellites. Each is designed to steer capacity between beams to deliver bandwidth when and where it's needed most, which is important to meet the needs of aviation, maritime, defense, and home internet customers, where the location of high-demand hotspots can change over the course of the day.
And unfortunately, the An-225, the only one of 2 airframes ever built, and the only one completed airframe, got destroyed in the opening days of the Russo-Ukrainian war, and I do mean war. Anyway, it got destroyed when it was at the Battle of Hostomel Airport, which is where Antonov Airlines is located. Antonov Airlines is in fact operated by Antonov Design Bureau, which designed both the An-124 and the An-225. The An-225 has a dual tail, and on top of that uses 6 high bypass turbofan engines instead of just 4. And like I said, it was based on the An-124 Ruslan, and it's employed both in civilian and military usages. And of course, the best known user of that is Antonov Airlines. The next to which, of course, being being used by the Russian Air Force. just grabbing a quick swig of water. So what they do when they what they do with these vehicles, unlike say Falcon 9, where they basically do a just-in-time fueling, they will put the RP1 rocket propellant ones. I've also heard it called refined petroleum one, because it is in fact a form of highly refined kerosene. And of course, the other component is liquid oxygen. That one, on the other hand, that tends to be a little difficult to keep in there. And most of the time, those vehicles do not use insulated tanks. And the liquid oxygen, as well as of course the liquid hydrogen in the Centaur stage, along with liquid methane for Starship, Vulcan, as well as, of course, New Glenn, are also cryogenic fuels, in this case, liquid methane, or sometimes called LCH4.
Engineers at Cape Canaveral and ULA's Design Center in Denver are working together to develop options to potentially solve this issue for launch tonight. Our launch opportunity remains available through 11:08 p.m. Eastern.
Or about 8:08 p.m. here in California. And because liquid oxygen boils off at a particular temperature, which of course is our ambient temperature is considerably well higher than the boiling point of liquid oxygen, they have to basically keep replenishing the amount of liquid oxygen in the tank right up until the point they launch. But at least since RP1 is a liquid at room temperature, they can actually fill that a bit ahead of time before they actually launch the vehicle. They only have to do tanking operation of the cryogenics literally maybe a couple of hours before launch. But usually with in the case of Falcon 9, they fuel those about 20 minutes or 40 minutes ahead.
The ULA team recently launched the first national security mission to ride atop our new Vulcan rocket. Let's take a look at liftoff of this milestone launch.
Permission to launch. Proceeding with the count. Rock, report range status.
Range green.
Go Vulcan.
Go Centaur.
Go SF-106.
Liftoff of United Launch Alliance Vulcan rocket carrying USSF-106 United States Space Force, continuing ULA's soaring legacy in national security space launch with the innovative Vulcan rocket.
And one thing you'll notice between Vulcan and Vulcan and Atlas, both have two engine nozzles, but there's a difference. Atlas uses only one engine, but two combustion chambers, and this one actually uses two completely separate engines. And there go the SRBs. The RD-180 engine is based on the RD-170, which has 4 combustion chambers and therefore 4 engine nozzles. And basically, that idea was born out of the idea of of the problem that happens when you have too big of an area where the combustion chamber is at its top. In the case of the F1, which powered the first stage of the Saturn V, they actually they would have hot spots that would just flare up and ultimately destroy the engine. In order to make everything work more or less the same, what they had to do was put baffling on the injector plate, such that you have smaller flame fronts and they can have a whole bunch of them and it'll still work. And apparently one of the things I was reading something, and one of the things they did was during one of the test firings, they actually placed explosives in the nozzle to disrupt it, and what they to disrupt the combustion chamber. And while it definitely caused problems with the combustion, it actually went and started things right back up, and it burned normally for the rest of the rest of the burn. And the F1, like the RD180, the Merlin 1D, as well as, of course, the Rutherford engine, they all use RP1 and liquid oxygen for their fuel and oxidizer, respectively. And in the case of the Soyuz rockets, they use, and the fuel they use, I believe, is called T1 or TG1. I forget the exact name, but that's their variant. That's their equivalent, their analog to our RP1, which again is another highly refined form of kerosene. But they use high test hydrogen peroxide for the actual operation of the turbopumps on those vehicles. And that's all one of the, and also I believe they actually use high test hydrogen peroxide on the Soyuz vehicles when they're on orbit, which is one of the reasons why they have to make sure that they get down as soon as they can, because the actual hydrogen peroxide will actually start to
at L-4 minutes in holding. While we wait for an update from the team,
actually decompose
and learn more about ViaSat.
Let's see what they've got to say.
ViaSat Amara takes everything that we were doing as Inmarsat and brings it into the ViaSat roadmap of everything we're doing in terms of offering a multi-orbit, multi-network service, coupled with digital product, coupled with monetization, coupled with guaranteed SLAs, everything all together.
So ViaSat Amara is really sort of taking what we've been doing for the last 12 years in market and taking that reliability and that brand promise and extending it well into the future.
So in the aviation market, our approach to multi-orbit, multi-network is combining ViaSat Amara with the new ViaSat Era terminal. This allows us to combine the best of both GEO and LEO into one solution and really deliver to the passenger experience.
Along the way, we bring on Telesat, and what Telesat does is it allows you to have a multi-orbit offering so that you can use GEOs, you can use LEOs. What ViaSat Era does is take that up another notch by being able to do that simultaneously.
What does simultaneous means? It means I can get the benefits of GEO with the lowest unit production cost, the highest demand density, coupled with an overlay of low latency applications like, say, first-person gaming.
It doesn't matter if I'm scrolling TikTok, watching Netflix. The experience feels natural and contiguous to the customer while we're in the background making packet by packet, moment by moment decisions on how to route that customer's traffic
say 350
over the best available link to meet that demand.
This is big. ViaSat Amara was really unlocking our next era of global connectivity. All of our global customers have been wanting that for their global airlines, and it's coming together. So it's really exciting.
Oh, so they're using a hybrid of both geostationary orbit as well as, of course, low Earth orbit. And low Earth orbit, you got to use that if you want low latency. If you want to play games and stuff like that, not the GTO stuff. Not the stuff that's going to GTO, geostationary transfer orbit. Yeah, but if you're doing just regular web browsing or anything like that, that doesn't necessarily require any kind of if it's not too sensitive to latency, that's where it makes sense to do it that way, to do it over a geostationary orbit. That's one of the reasons why.
A little deeper into more about ViaSat.
I thought we just did, or just a little deeper. Lower Earth orbit, LTE. That's L band. I'd have to see what part of the microwave spectrum that is. So now S band is lower than C band. C band being right around the 4 to 8 gigahertz bandwidth. Below that is, of course, S band. KU band is right around the 14, 20 gigahertz bandwidth. And in fact, a lot of 5G tends to be in the C band, and that's where the ones that are really having where they have issues with aviation, especially in right in the area of airports, mainly radio altimeters. And apparently, the only people who really screwed that one up were the FCC in the United States. Everywhere else, they actually got it right. Noticing that that LTE is in the process of being shut down, at least on by way of T-Mobile. I'm not certain about the other carrier, the tier 1 carriers like AT&T and Verizon. So usually, pretty much in any at this point, it sounds like it's not so much the weather. Everything is perfect in terms of weather. They said 5% violation of launch constraints due to weather. Those are very good numbers. Right now, it's probably going to be something on. It's going to be a systems issue, and everybody's sounds like they're at their top of their game. They're just dealing with what's going on with the vehicle itself, as well as the systems that support it, both on the ground and in the air and in space. The Vulcan Centaur launch that's coming. No, excuse me. Let me try that again. The New Glenn launch that's coming up is it's got a NASA mission on there called Escapade. I looked at it briefly. It's a rather long thing. The word escape is part of it, but yeah, the entire thing is called Escapade. And that's going to be apparently a very large vehicle, which requires something like the New Glenn.
Mission control at
Let's see what they got.
4 minutes and holding. We continue to hold the countdown at T-4 minutes while the team is working on an issue that needs to be resolved before we can proceed with the launch. We'll keep you updated as we learn more.
And right now we have about 48 minutes left in the launch window. I wish I could open up a video of what happened during the Vulcan Centaur launch that happened. And Vulcan Centaur uses the BE-4, 2 of them, as opposed to the 7 that's at the base of New Glenn. And it's probably a little bit larger than medium lift. I'm not sure where it fits. Let's see what they got.
Go ahead. Okay, picked up another OTC line item 25. Control booster locks Delta P. Roger.
Something going on with liquid oxygen, what they were saying, it sounded like. And of course, that's one of the reasons why and apparently it was so urgent that they actually had to abort the go no go poll and immediately start working on the situation once they found out that there was an issue that needed very immediate work on it. And as Tim Dodd is fond of saying, better to have a scrub than a boom. Especially if it happens so close to the ground, because we've seen what happens when things go really, really, really wrong on, like, say, the Nedelin catastrophe, although that is more they used actual hypergolic fuels. In this case, instead of using dinitrogen tetroxide, they were using red fuming nitric acid. And because they were so on, they were up against a schedule mainly to meet with either the Bolshevik Revolution or or whatever it is, one of those anniversaries that came up, they basically threw safety to the
Atlas
wind.
Mission Control at L-4 minutes and holding. Earlier today, our team went out and got this beautiful image of the moon tonight, which some might know is a full moon, but not just any moon, a supermoon.
And fun fact, this supermoon is actually referred to as a beaver moon, and that term actually comes from the fact that it coincides with the time in the winter that beavers want to, hunker down and settle down in their lodging.
The term supermoon was actually coined in 1979, so it's relatively new, and it just means that the moon can be up to 14% larger tonight than an average full moon. And I believe this one is actually the brightest of the year.
So that's some pretty nice bit of imagery there. And I saw this one picture that showed all the various different cultures, what they see in the moon, like you see the rabbit in the moon from Japan, a man in the moon from like the United States, possibly elsewhere in Europe or elsewhere in the in that particular part of the world. And we're still waiting on when Artemis 2 is supposed to be flying off to the moon, having the first planned flyby of humans since 1968. Of course, there was Apollo 13, but that was an unplanned flyby. That's when liquid oxygen tanks exploded on the service module, and they, of course, had to hunker down in the they had to shut all the power down in the command module, and then basically go into conservation mode for the LEM, for the balance of the mission, in order to get everybody around the they had to do what is called a free return, because basically what they do is they fly it such that if they were about to go outside the parameters of a free return at one point, but apparently things happened so bad so early that they pretty much had no choice but to stay on their route and go through the free return. Because had they made those course changes, those course corrections, they would never have come back. So meanwhile, we're waiting on more information coming from launch control. In fact, they haven't even specifically said what the problem was. We don't know what that is yet. And right now, we're just sitting and waiting. And about 22 minutes left in the about 22 minutes left in the window. And thus far, the Atlas booster has had a perfect launch record. As far as the RD-180 is concerned, it has had has an even longer record, because they actually did the Atlas 3.
Not know about ViaSat. The ViaSat-3 constellation is expected to expand and enhance ViaSat's Amara in-flight connectivity solution, helping airlines deliver next-level experiences that improve the passenger experience and drive new lines of revenue. For business aviation, it is expected to further elevate Viasat's Jet XP solution for an even greater standard of seamless, high-performance connectivity from takeoff to touchdown.
ViaSat-3 also offers a clear upgrade path for our maritime customers as a part of NexusWave fully managed bonded connection service. This next generation, ultra-high capacity, ultra-high speed is designed to significantly enhance the office-like and home-like internet experience on board vessels.
Viasat-3 is also the next generation of commercial SATCOM reimagined for modern mission advantage, delivering high-throughput, flexible satellite connectivity that can exceed performance, security, and resiliency requirements for our government partners across land, sea, air, and space.
The ViaSat-3 constellation will help deliver fast, reliable internet to more
I'm doing
homes
all right
and
over
small
on
businesses in rural communities and around the world.
I hope you're doing all right on your side of things. We're just waiting on more information as to what has caused this launch to go into a hold. Normally they have a regular built-in hold to make sure everything's okay. or sometimes they'll just run all the way up to L0. And but most of the time, whenever ULA did a lot of this stuff in the past, they would build in a bit of a hold just to make sure that there are any kind of issues, that if any issues come up, they can they'll have a time that to make any kind of changes, or if they need to make any updates, regardless of any kind of issues that they need to work like they are now, they have enough time to make any updates and adjustments ahead of launch. But yeah, the flight profile is anything like I believe I've seen it in the past. Just before T0, they'll light the RD-180 engine at the base of the Atlas V booster, and shortly right at liftoff, they ignite all the SRBs that are on there, assuming there are on there. What they'll then do is, of course, let the vehicle go, and it'll start ascending. The SRBs burn for up to 2 to 2.5 minutes, at which point, once they burn out, they'll be jettisoned, after which it'll burn for another 2 to 2.5 minutes for a grand total of about 4.5 minutes from launch to BECO, or booster engine cutoff, at which point the Atlas stage detaches, separates, or stages away from the Centaur, at which point the RL-10 will ignite. And since this is a 5-meter fairing, they actually have to jettison the fairings before they actually do separation. And that has to happen after passing the Kármán line, which is 100 kilometers or about 67 miles above the surface of the planet. That's because the fairing encases not just the payload,
Go ahead.
but also the
by SYS that we got a contingency aegis load. Would you like me to go ahead and load that?
Negative.
Copy.
LC, LD, net 1.
LC.
Yes, sir. We are declaring a scrub for today's operations. Please configure for 24-hour recycle.
Roger.
Well, that's a bummer. They're going for, when they say 24-hour recycle, they'll try and do another launch tomorrow, and we're going to try and pick that up as well. While I'm here, I'm going to make a couple of adjustments here.
SD, LC on 1. Go. At this time, we can go ahead and take the spacecraft back to external power.
Roger.
Flight control LC.
Go ahead.
At this time, we're picking up in operation 90, step 20, terminate option 910 and reset 910 flags.
Roger.
And it's situations like this that I always put the thing on me on my
This is
on my
Atlas Mission
tweets.
Control. It is confirmed that we will not continue with the Atlas V ViaSat-3 F2 launch activities this evening. We have a 24-hour recycle. Our next launch attempt will be tomorrow at 10:16 p.m. Eastern. For up-to-date information, visit ulalaunch.com. I'm Abby Katwar. Thanks for joining us.
Okay, let's go ahead and back here. And I'm going to go ahead and mute that so then I can hear what's going on. Man, I need to make some adjustments on my model. But anyway, basically what happens is that in case something goes wrong, they can, especially anything that can may take longer than the launch window will permit, they will but short enough where they can actually recycle an entire day. They'll go ahead and do that. They'll declare a scrub like they did just now, and then they will actually try again tomorrow. In this case, they're talking about T0 being I think they were saying 10:16 p.m. tomorrow Eastern. That would be 7:16 p.m. local time here, so that sounds about right, assuming it's right around the same time of day. And because they can't, they have to make sure that everything lines up just right. It all depends on the vehicle itself. When it comes to stuff going to the ISS, they use what is called an instantaneous launch window, or instant launch window, or words to that effect. They basically launch right at the time, within a particular certain period of time. If they can't make it, they will have to scrub. And that holds true for Soyuz. That holds true for Progress, which of course is the variant for cargo. Although they do a lot of different things just to get into orbit a little bit faster, using a whole bunch of Hohmann maneuvers, relatively quick and early in the ascent. After they get off the third stage. And in the case of, they always do that with the Falcon 9. They don't do the crazy stuff that requires, that allows them, they can do stuff, I think, in about 6 hours. I don't know if they do anything like they do, say, with Soyuz. But anyway, we are going to head out. Let me... A couple of looks at things. Hang on a minute here. Let's see. See what else is going on here. That was a bummer because I'm not going to see many of those much longer, and apparently all of the remaining slots have been sold. And of course, one of the things they're getting ready to also do at some point, I just don't know when, and that is the a leather launch of do an OFT-3 launch, Orbital Flight Test 3 for oh shit, I'm trying to remember, CST-100 Starliner, which of course was made by Boeing, which, Boeing. What do we do? Anyway. So anyway, I hope everybody had an okay evening. Yeah, it's, unfortunately, I wish things didn't work, ended up not being what they were, but anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and call it an evening, because it's getting pretty close to bedtime for me. So, any event, I'd like to say thank you everybody for joining me, and as always, I'd like to say Slava Ukraini, and thank you so much for coming on by, and hopefully tomorrow things will be a lot better. OFT3. Oh, interesting. I do watch OFT1 stream back then. Very interesting. Oh, cool. Especially considering the fact that they really messed things up on that one, because apparently the vehicle was not able to get the time properly, and as such they had to essentially manage their they actually had to manage to get it to the point where they're not using any more of the any more of the propellant, because that's what's happening. That was what was going on with that. What ended up happening is that they were getting very low on orbiting maneuvering thrust fuel, and they had to get it to the point so that they can actually bring the vehicle down. So anyway, that's what they had to do, was stop that. And of course the OFT2 worked out pretty well. And then they had a flight test, which of course had all sorts of problems, and that's why Sunita Williams ended up staying in, and her colleague ended up being there for a bit longer than anticipated. And of course, we had certain people saying things like, "Oh, it's a political thing." No, it's not. And yes, everything was already there. They, people were not being. It was not good in any event, regardless. But yeah, they have to do another uncrewed test in order to make sure things work again before they actually do another flight with people aboard. So any event, I'd like to say thank you so much, everybody, for coming on by. I will probably catch you guys tomorrow evening. I just don't know precisely what time. It's probably going to be close to 6:45 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, or 9:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and 02:45 hours UTC. And of course, whatever your time zone is, you'll have to make adjustments accordingly. So anyway, I will make announcements on my usual places, and I hope to catch you guys before too long, and maybe even do another stream gaming, but probably not tomorrow, considering the fact that we're waiting on what's going on with this particular launch, and see if it's going to be easily fixed by tomorrow night. But the weather wasn't a problem. All right, see you again. Thanks for the stream. Also, just shout you out on my own stream. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Have a great evening, and I hope happy good evening yourself, or whatever time it is where you are. Have a great one in the meantime, everybody, and I will see you then. And more information forthcoming, and I will have that out there before too long, and I will catch you later. Bye.